Welcome back for another deep dive. And today we are going to be looking at the world of sexual desire.
Ooh,
It's always a popular one, right?
always a good one.
So we're going to be taking a look at this audiobook called He Comes Next, The Thinking Man's Guide to Pleasuring a Woman.
Interesting title.
Yeah, it is, huh? And we are going to be uncovering some surprising insights about relationships. Maybe you'll have a few aha moments
I hope so.
about yourself along the way.
Well, what's funny? We always talk about desire as this sort of magical thing,
Yeah.
but there's a lot more science to it than you think.
Mm.
And the book dives into that right away,
Okay.
starting with the idea that the honeymoon phase of intense passion,
Yeah.
it actually has a biological basis.
Wait, are you saying there's like a reason why it
Uh,
feels so different years down the line? It's not just in my head?
Not just you. No, in the beginning of a relationship, our brains are just flooded with dopamine and norepinephrine.
Mm-hmm.
Those are powerful chemicals.
Uh-huh.
They create that feeling of intense attraction.
That makes sense, I
That
guess.
excitement, all of that.
But then what happens when those chemicals kind of start to fade?
Right. Well, as the relationship goes on, the focus shifts to different hormones,
Okay.
like oxytocin and vasopressin.
I've heard of oxytocin.
Right. These are like the bonding hormones,
Oh.
the ones that really help us feel attached, feel secure.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, they're essential for a long-term relationship, but they can also dampen that initial fiery passion.
So like a trade-off.
Exactly. You gain the stability, but maybe you lose a little bit of that,
Yeah. The
that
dopamine.
spark. That spark, exactly. And, what's interesting is this biological shift
Yeah.
isn't unique to humans.
Really?
The book compares it to prairie voles.
Hold on, voles.
And
Like the little rodents. What do those have to do with relationships?
Well, prairie voles are monogamous,
No.
meaning they form strong pair bonds,
Oh, like us?
like we do.
Yeah.
And scientists have found that their mating behavior
Mm-hmm.
is linked to the presence of certain dopamine receptors.
So you're saying these tiny little creatures can teach us something about love?
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It highlights how our biology really influences how we experience desire,
Mm-hmm.
both in the short term and the long term.
But that doesn't mean we're doomed to like boredom,
No,
right?
not at all.
Okay, good. I was starting to get a little worried there.
No.
So what can we do about it?
Well, that's where understanding the power of fantasy really comes in.
Okay.
The book introduces this idea of a love map,
Love map.
which is essentially like a blueprint of your own unique erotic desires.
So like a map to our deepest turn-ons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that. What we fantasize about can give us clues about what really excites us.
I guess that makes sense.
But the book also cautions against relying too heavily on external triggers like pornography.
Why is that?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought anything that like
Right.
gets you in the mood would be helpful.
Sometimes those external triggers can actually kind of cloud our true desires.
Oh, really?
They can create a dependency on specific images or scenarios, and it makes it harder to connect with our own internal fantasies.
I see. I see. So it's more about like
Yeah.
a balance.
It's about tuning in to what genuinely excites you,
Right.
not just what you've been conditioned to respond to.
Yeah.
And the book shares an anecdote, actually, about a couple who use sexy dreams as a way to explore their fantasies with each other.
Well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, this couple, Jenny and Bill,
Okay.
they decided to share their dreams with each other.
Mhm.
The ones with a little spice.
Okay.
They found that it was a way to open up about their desires
That makes.
in a safe and playful way
Yeah.
without any judgment.
I love that. It
Well,
takes the fear out of it.
It does. And, it gets to the heart of the book's message.
Which is
Don't be afraid to explore your fantasies.
Yeah.
They're really a valuable key to understanding yourself and what turns you on.
mm-hmm. This is giving me a lot to think about already. But let's move on to another key idea from the book.
Okay.
Reframing foreplay. Okay, so it challenges this traditional view of foreplay as just like the physical stuff.
Right.
Leading up to sex.
The physical acts, right?
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is this emphasis on mental foreplay, on
Mhm.
desire and anticipation.
Yeah.
It's not just about the physical touch.
Okay.
It's about creating a mental and emotional connection.
So are you saying it's not always about like racing towards the finish line?
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes the anticipation itself
Huh.
can be incredibly erotic.
Yeah.
And the book highlights that foreplay doesn't always have to lead to intercourse.
That's kind of a radical idea, isn't it?
It is, and it's a refreshing perspective.
Yeah.
It's about savoring the journey, not just focusing on the destination.
Yeah.
And it can actually lead to a much richer and more satisfying experience overall.
Okay, so how do we put this into practice?
Yeah.
What are some, like, concrete examples of this reframing of foreplay?
Well, the book gives these fun examples of what it calls playful exhibitionism.
Okay.
So imagine couples flirting in dressing rooms, exchanging whispers in restaurants. Oh, yeah. Little things like that.
I've seen couples do that.
Right.
I never thought of it as foreplay, though.
It's about finding those little moments to connect and create a sense of playful desire,
Okay.
turning everyday life into a playground for erotic exploration.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. And it goes hand in hand with another concept the book introduces,
Okay.
the white tigress.
Okay, that name definitely piqued my interest.
Actress?
What's the white tigress all about?
Well, think of a woman who prioritizes her own sexual pleasure, sees sex as a source of rejuvenation.
Okay.
She embraces a playful, adventurous mindset,
Mm-hmm.
almost like a young girl seeking excitement,
Oh, I love that.
you know?
It's about reclaiming that
It is,
sensuality,
Yeah.
approaching sex with that sense of wonder and curiosity.
Exactly, not just going through the motions.
Yes.
And the white tigress philosophy even categorizes different types of partners.
Oh, really?
The green dragon for pure sexual energy
Yeah.
and the jade dragon for a more mutually beneficial long-term relationship.
So you can kind of choose how you want to
Yeah.
engage with your partner.
You can based on your desires in that moment.
Okay.
And the real question the book poses is how can you adopt elements of this white tigress approach
Yeah.
to enhance your own sexual experience?
That is a great question, and one I think we should explore further. So we've been talking about this idea of the white tigress and how she approaches sex with a playful, adventurous mindset.
Right.
But how do we actually tap into that mindset,
Right.
especially in a long-term relationship when, like, life gets busy and routine sets in?
It's a great question, and the book really emphasizes this idea of kind of shifting our perspective.
Okay.
As adults, we tend to approach sex in this very goal-oriented way.
Yeah.
We're focused on the orgasm, on
Mhm.
fulfilling needs, checking things off the list.
Oh my gosh, it's so true.
Do you know?
I've totally fallen into that trap.
Right, but the white tigress encourages us to kind of let go of those expectations.
Okay.
Think back to when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that feeling of exploration.
Yeah.
Everything being new and exciting.
Yeah, definitely a lot less pressure
Right.
then.
The white tigress encourages us to tap back into that energy,
Oh.
to be present in the moment, to enjoy the sensations, to be curious,
Yeah,
It's about rediscovering that joy of exploration.
I love that. It's about reclaiming your sexual agency,
Yes.
approaching intimacy with a sense of adventure.
Yes.
But what about those times when you're just not in the mood?
Right.
I mean, life can be pretty draining.
Well, the book makes this interesting comparison.
Okay.
Think about your relationship with food.
Okay.
Would you be satisfied eating the same meal every day at the same time?
Definitely not. I like to mix it up,
Right.
try new things.
Variety and spontaneity are key,
Okay.
to keeping things interesting. And that applies to our sex lives, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding those little ways to connect with your partner throughout the day. Building anticipation, creating a sense of excitement outside the bedroom.
So it's not just about what happens between the sheets.
Exactly. The book gives some great examples, like flirting in public,
Oh, yeah.
sending each other suggestive messages, stealing a quick kiss when no one's watching.
Okay.
Little things to keep the spark alive.
So weaving those threads of desire
Yes.
into our everyday lives.
And remember what we discussed about reframing foreplay.
Mm.
Those little moments can be foreplay, too.
Okay.
The book stresses that it doesn't always have to lead to intercourse.
Yeah.
Sometimes the anticipation itself can be incredibly satisfying.
It's like that saying, the best part of the kiss is the moment before the kiss.
Right.
But I feel like building that anticipation takes good communication,
It does.
especially when it comes to, like, fantasies.
Yeah, you're hitting on a really important point.
Mm-hmm.
The book talks a lot about understanding your partner's love map,
Right.
that blueprint of their erotic desires. And one of the best ways to uncover that map is through open and honest communication about fantasies.
Which can be hard.
It can be. And I imagine that's a tricky conversation for a lot of couples.
Yeah.
Fantasies can feel so personal, even a little taboo.
Totally.
So what does the book suggest for navigating those potentially awkward conversations?
Yeah, what does it say?
Well, remember that couple we talked about, Jenny and Bill?
Yes.
They use sexy dreams as a way to open up about their fantasies.
Right.
It created this safe, playful space for them to share their desires without fear of judgment.
I feel like that's a good way to like break the ice,
It is.
to get those conversations going.
And the book emphasizes that there's no right or wrong when it comes to fantasies.
Right.
Sometimes our fantasies might involve things that we feel ashamed of or guilty about, things we wouldn't necessarily act on.
That's so true.
But
I think we get caught up in what we think we should be fantasizing about.
right.
Instead of just letting ourselves explore those thoughts without judgment.
Exactly. The book encourages us to embrace those forbidden thoughts,
Okay.
to explore what they might reveal about our deepest desires.
Yeah, and even if you don't like act on those fantasies,
Right.
just sharing them with your partner can be really powerful.
It creates a deeper level of trust and intimacy, which can lead to a more fulfilling sexual relationship overall.
Okay, so we've talked about mindset communication, the importance of exploration.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are there like specific techniques that the book suggests for actually putting this into practice?
That's where things get really fun.
Okay.
The book encourages this playful, experimental approach, drawing inspiration from that white tigress energy.
Okay.
It even suggests incorporating elements of like playful exhibitionism.
I like where this is going.
Creating opportunities for those stolen moments of passion we were talking about.
Give me some examples.
Well, think about those couples flirting in dressing rooms, whispering something suggestive in a crowded restaurant, or even finding a moment for a quick touch in public.
Ooh, that is hot.
It's about adding a little spice to the everyday routine.
Yeah, creating those sparks of excitement and anticipation.
Exactly. And remember, those moments don't always have to lead to intercourse.
Right.
Sometimes the anticipation itself is enough to keep the fires burning.
It's all about keeping things fresh and exciting.
The book also dives into something I think a lot of people overlook.
Pizza that.
The importance of physical health and well-being
Oh, yeah.
for both men and women.
Okay.
It highlights the connection between feeling good in your body and feeling good about sex.
That makes sense. When you're feeling confident and energized,
Yes,
you're more likely to feel sexy
exactly.
and want to connect.
Taking care of yourself both physically and emotionally
Yeah.
plays a huge role in your sexual well-being.
Okay.
The book even suggests incorporating things like exercise into your foreplay routine.
Ooh, I like that.
A steamy post-workout shower with your partner.
That's a good one.
It's about finding those creative ways to weave pleasure and connection into your everyday lives.
And, the book doesn't just focus on the female experience.
It doesn't.
It also talks about the importance of understanding the male's sexual response cycle.
It does.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, the book encourages us to help our partners slow down and savor each stage of the cycle. Rather than just rushing towards the end goal, It's about creating a more sensual and connected experience for both of you.
So shifting the focus from the destination to the journey.
Precisely. And the book actually provides specific techniques for enhancing each stage of the cycle.
Okay.
From desire and arousal to plateau orgasm and resolution.
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
This is like a whole new way of thinking about sex.
It is. It challenges a lot of the preconceived notions we have about how sex should be.
Yeah.
And remember, it's all about experimenting and finding what works for you and your partner.
That's a good point. I feel like I'm learning so much already.
Yeah.
And we haven't even scratched the surface of everything the book covers.
There's so much to unpack when it comes to desire and intimacy.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is to approach it with a sense of curiosity and playfulness. Don't be afraid to try new things and see what sparks joy for you and your partner.
I love that.
Oh.
So what other gems does this book hold? I feel like we've uncovered so much already, but I'm sure there's still more to discuss. What other insights does the book have for us?
Well, one thing I really appreciate about this book is that it encourages us to think outside the box when it comes to sex.
Okay.
It challenges those traditional ideas of what sex should be and reminds us that pleasure can take many forms.
So it's not all about intercourse.
Exactly. The author encourages us to think of all forms of mutual pleasuring as equally valuable.
Yeah.
It's about creating a sexual menu, so to speak.
I like that.
That caters to both partners' unique desires.
Yeah, it makes it feel less like a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, right.
And more about creating something that works for both people.
Exactly. And you know what? It doesn't have to be complicated.
Okay.
The book offers some simple yet effective ways to incorporate this idea into your lovemaking.
Like what?
For example, remember those sexy dreams we talked about?
Yeah.
The author suggests using them as a springboard for conversations about desires and boundaries.
This is like a fun way to open up the lines of communication.
Exactly, without it feeling too heavy or clinical.
Okay.
And it helps both partners feel more comfortable expressing their needs,
Yeah.
exploring new possibilities. The book also emphasizes the importance of spontaneity.
Okay.
It's not always about planning these elaborate romantic evenings.
Why?
Sometimes the most passionate moments happen when you least expect them.
So just being open to those like stolen moments,
Exactly.
those unexpected sparks of connection.
It's about seeing your partner with fresh eyes, rediscovering what makes them uniquely attractive,
Hmm.
approaching intimacy with a sense of adventure.
I love this whole conversation. It's been so inspiring.
Good.
It feels like a roadmap for like reigniting passion and creating a more fulfilling sex life.
And remember, this is just a starting point.
Right.
The real journey begins when you take these insights and apply them to your own relationship.
That's true.
It's about experimenting, communicating,
Yeah.
and never being afraid to explore the vast landscape of your own desires.
So well said. Is there any final piece of wisdom that you want to leave our listeners with?
Yes, actually. The book ends with this really powerful image.
Okay.
The author talks about the shaky bridge of desire.
The shaky bridge.
It's that feeling of uncertainty and excitement, that anticipation of what might happen next.
Yeah,
And he encourages us to keep that bridge alive,
I like that.
to never let boredom or routine dim our spark.
So it's a call to action to embrace our inner white tigress
Exactly.
and keep that sense of adventure burning bright.
Don't let the flame die out.
Keep
Exploring, keep connecting.
And keep the shaky bridge alive.
Such a powerful message. This deep dive has been so insightful.
Good.
And I hope our listeners feel empowered to create more fulfilling and exciting sexual experiences in their own lives.
I hope so too. And remember, the journey to extraordinary sex begins with understanding your own desires and having the courage to explore them.
Beautifully said. So to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another exploration of fascinating ideas. Until then, keep those sparks flying.